Hello and welcome to Castles and Legends. Today we are exploring Lowther Castle just here. So it's not actually strictly a castle but a country house. It might look like a glorious Gothic castle, but it wasn't actually built till 1812. However, the Lowther family have occupied these grounds since 1150. Quite a long time, hey? But it is in a ruinous condition, sadly, but I think it's still definitely worth a look around. Let's go. The origins of the Lowther dynasty begin in 1150 when Dovin de Lowther founded a settlement at the site. During the reign of King Edward III in the 13th century, Sir Hugh de Lowther gained the right to embark at Lowther and built a deer park beside the River Lowther. Sir Hugh also built a modern Bailey fortification at the park. As the dwellings at the Lowther estate grew and threats from Scottish raiders increased, the modern Bailey was replaced with a peel tower in the 14th century. Over the following centuries, the Lowther family's status was firmly established, and they acquired further lands, including Whitehaven Castle and lands in Rutland. In the late 17th century, the peel tower was replaced with a luxurious Jacobean residence, and the family's fortunes were flourishing. But things were about to take a turn for the worse in the early 18th century. In 1714, the young promising heir, Richard, died at just 21 from smallpox, and Lowther Hall passed to his younger brother Henry. Disaster struck in 1718. A massive fire tore through the house, leaving much of it in a ruinous state. When Henry passed away in 1751, he left no heir and the family's fortune was drained. The Lowther estates passed to Henry's cousin, James Lowther, also known as Wicked Jimmy. The coal pits at Whitehaven generated a fortune for James Lowther. He further consolidated his position of power through his marriage to Lady Mary Stuart, the daughter of Lord Bute and also a coal heiress. Despite his vast wealth, James was known to be mean and have an explosive temper. James managed to gather a vast fortune and titles, but had little happiness. His marriage was unhappy and he had no heirs. His true love was his mistress, Betsy Lewes, but she died young. James died in 1802 of mortification of the bowel, and the estates passed to a distant cousin, William Lowther. It is said, though, that Wicked Jimmy never completely left Lowther, and that his ghost haunts Lowther, riding wildly on his galloping horse through the estate. William Lowther, 1st Earl of Lonsdale, commissioned a grand Gothic castle in 1806 at Lowther. The castle was designed by the young architect Robert Smirke, who was later responsible for many grand civic buildings in London, including the British Museum. The castle was completed in around 1812. The original estimated cost had been £150,000. That's approximately £8 million today, but remarkably, it actually only cost half the estimated cost. The completed castle was lavish with hundreds of rooms. William and his wife Augusta were great patrons of the arts. They were good friends with William Wordsworth and encouraged artists to visit Lowther, the most famous being J.M.W. Turner, who painted Lowther Castle Evening. The 2nd and 3rd Earl of Lonsdale continued to add to the castle's grand art and ancient works collections. The fourth Earl of Lonsdale, St George Henry, inherited the castle when he was just 23 in 1878. St George went on to marry Lady Gladys Herbert, a famous socialite of the day. St George's lordship of the castle was short-lived, as he died at the premature age of 26 in 1882. Following St George's unexpected death, the castle passed to his younger brother, Hugh Cecil Lowther, the 5th Earl of Lonsdale. Hugh had not had appropriate training or education that fitted the role of managing the castle and the finances. Prior to inheriting the castle, Hugh had married Lady Grace Gordon. Grace had become pregnant, but following a fall whilst hunting, she lost the baby and was thereafter unable to bear a child. Hugh lived a lavish lifestyle, indulging in his hobbies and enjoying the finest things in life. He spent vast fortunes on horses, private staff, his own orchestra, entertaining guests, and even his dogs had their very own carriage. Despite having a younger brother, Hugh saw himself as the last in the Lowther line dynasty. Hugh is also known as the Yellow Earl due to his fondness of the colour yellow. Hugh had yellow cars, carriages, his orchestra had yellow uniforms, his dogs were golden retrievers of course, and at one point he even bred buff-coloured turkeys. Hugh's fondness of yellow resigned from the family coat of arms, which features the colour or. Or means gold. Hugh's spending was out of control, and he was forced to sell some of his ancestral properties to cover costs. Whitehaven Castle, Barleythorpe Hall in Rutland. In 1935, a financial situation had become so dire that Hugh could no longer afford to live at Lowther Castle and moved to a much more modest accommodation. Hugh died in 1944, but 4 years prior to this, Lowther Castle had been assigned for efforts in World War II. The castle was not returned to Lowther family until 1954. Hugh's brother Lancelot Lowther inherited the castle, but was forced to auction the wonderful art collection and many other treasures to repay the debts that Hugh had left. Lancelot died just 4 years after inheriting Lowther Castle, and it passed down to his grandson James. James developed the estate into a farming project, with the forecourt becoming a pig's pen, the gardens became a timber plantation, and various other areas used for farming purposes. James also faced crippling death duties of 25 million, and in order to try to fund the duties, he removed the castle's roof and a great deal of the stonework to sell. James passed away in 2006, and since his death, significant restoration work on the grounds has commenced. The animal farming and tree plantation has been removed, and the estate received a massive £9 million grant for improvements, which led to the grounds being ready to open their doors to the public in 2011. Lowther Castle is now a popular tourist attraction. The enormous castle shell can be explored, and the glorious gardens have been brought back to life. Lowther Castle has been a really nice surprise at how lovely it actually is here. The castle, or country house itself, the history isn't that extensive as it only dates back a couple of 100 years. However, the Lowther family goes all the way back to being Viking descendants, and you get a lot of history here. Before I came, I didn't discover that much online, but they provide so much information here very nice. Ruins are beautiful to look at, and the grounds really extensive with gardens, Japanese garden, rose garden, a huge children's play area if you've got kids, and woodland. You could make a real day out here. It is very nice. There is still ongoing restoration work at the castle and the garden, so if you come here in the future, I think it'll be even more magnificent and lovely to visit. I think that's about it, so I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. Please do hit the like button and subscribe if you have not already, and I'll see you on our next adventure.